today's video, we're going to be looking at my new camera, the Sony HDR-PJ410, a handycam with a built-in projector. The PJ410 is a 1080 HD camera with a 9.2 megapixel sensor, 60 times zoom, 50 megabyte bitrate, and is capable of filming in MP4. If we take a look at the box, we can see that the camera has a flip-out mini viewing screen, which rotates 180 degrees to allow you to film yourself and easily frame the shot. On the side of the box, we can also see that a carry case and tripod are also available, but these are optional purchases. So let's get into the box and see what we have. In the top here, we have the documentation. This comprises of a safety notice concerning the USB mains adapter, a leaflet showing the various accessories that can be purchased for the PJ410, a registration reminder, a manufacturer's certificate, and the guarantee document. In this case, it's for Europe. And finally, the instruction manual, which we'll now take a closer look at. The manual has a list of components you will find in the box, and then instructions on how to put in the battery, as well as instructions on using the various functions on the camera, but we will go into that in more detail later on in the video. The HDR-PJ410 also has Wi-Fi capabilities, which can be used for taking videos and pictures wirelessly to a PC for editing and viewing. The manual takes you through the steps required to connect to your PC wirelessly, but also included is a USB cable that will hardwire link the camera to your PC. And finally, you have all the usual safety information regarding electronics and lithium battery usage. Underneath that, you will find the camera and all the included cables. So let's take a look at them first. In the first small green bag is the battery that goes into the camera. This is a MP-BX1 lithium battery. And as you can see here, I also purchased 2 replacement batteries and a double battery charger, which can also be used in conjunction with the battery that came with the camera. This allows me to never be without a fully charged battery. In addition, the pack contains a mains adapter plug, which allows you to plug a USB cable into the mains power. This is used for both powering the camcorder and recharging the battery. It is also compatible with the battery charger that I purchased separately, which actually charges the batteries a lot quicker than when they're in the camera unit itself. Next, we have an HDMI to mini HDMI cable for connecting the camera to a compatible TV or PC monitor to view videos and pictures stored on the camera. There is also included a short mini port to USB female adapter and a longer mini port to USB cable. So now we can move on to the camera itself. As you can see, it's a really compact model, designed to fit snugly into the hand. And as we look around it, there isn't a lot of switches and buttons, which makes it truly point and shoot. Starting with the finger strap, it's fully adjustable by means of a Velcro fitting, which makes it very secure, and the risk of dropping the camera when properly adjusted is little to none. The side where the handle is fitted also has a slightly recessed ergonomic design, which allows you to hold it in such a way that all your fingers are able to reach the zoom button and the record button without too much movement. Then as we look towards the front of the camera, you can see a slider that will open and close the lens cover. The lens is fixed and there is no focus ring. All that is taken care of by the zoom button here on top of the camera. The zoom button is well placed and requires only a single finger to operate, allowing you to see the viewing screen while framing up your zoomed shots. Behind the zoom button is the picture button. By pressing this button, you will instantly take a still photograph, even when recording. Unfortunately, this button is far too close to the zoom button, which means it really is easy to take stills accidentally while filming, which isn't really a major problem unless you're getting short on storage space. but it can get a bit annoying depending on how many times you accidentally hit it. As we look at the rear of the camera, you can see the button for recording video. It may seem like it's hard to reach when the camera is in your hand, but thanks to the finger strap, it's relatively easy to use without losing any grip on the camera itself. So that's it for buttons and switches. As I said earlier, the HDR-PJ410 is a simple point and shoot camera, which makes it an ideal starter camera. Let's turn our attention to the other features of the camera. Under a little panel on the handle side of the camera is the multi-port. This is primarily used to connect a composite cable from your Handycam to a device that doesn't have a USB or HDMI connection. The cable is not included with the kit, but can be purchased separately. Moving back to the finger strap, we have a short USB cable that seats into the handle when it's not in use. This is used to connect the Handycam to a PC or other device, and is used in connection with the other USB cables included in the pack, if this cable is too short. On the bottom of the camera housing, at the back, is the battery compartment. Simply slide the cover backwards and lift out. And you can see the battery compartment will only accept the battery a certain way, and has a small retaining clip that will hold the battery once inserted correctly. To insert the battery, just slide it in until the clip engages, and close the cover. And to remove the battery, gently move the clip in an outward direction till the battery pops out, and then just remove the battery. Continuing to look at the bottom, just behind the lens, we can see a universal tripod mount. This camera can easily be placed on a tripod to give you excellent shake-free shots. And finally, we have the tilt-out LCD screen. To turn the camera on, just simply pull the screen out to 90 degrees, and to turn the camera off, just simply push the screen back into its closed position. On the front of the screen, we can see the aperture for the inbuilt projector, and on top of the housing is the focus slider for the projector. It goes without saying, this is not one of the best projectors in the world, but given the right conditions, you can obtain a fairly decent picture. When we open the LCD screen, there is a small pull-down tab on the main camera housing, and if we take a look, you can see on the left-hand side a projector in mini HDMI port. This allows you to connect to any HDMI device to the camera and then project the image anywhere you want. And next to that is the mini port HDMI out, which allows you to connect the appropriate cables and transfer the pictures and videos onto an external device like a TV or PC monitor. And on the right hand side is the micro SD card slot for internal memory for the camera. On the LCD screen there are 3 buttons. The top button is the menu button, and this button is also a POV switch for navigating through the various menus. The middle button is the review media button. If you depress this button, you can see all the photos and videos stored on the memory card. And finally at the bottom is the projector button. Pressing this turns on the projector function. So let's get the camera up and running. So first we'll insert the batteries. Make sure the batteries have the contacts towards the left hand side, and slide the battery in until the clip engages. And that will hold it in place. Turn the camera on by pulling the viewing screen out 90 degrees, and once started up, you'll be greeted by the language settings. We want it in English, so using the topmost button, we can select English from the list, and then by pressing the top button, we enter that into the camera settings. Now we need to set the time zone. Again, using the topmost button, we can set that to GMT. The clocks have changed back from summertime at the making of this video, so we can just click the next button and set the date format we want, and then set the date and time. And finally, we can review all our settings and click OK. We now get a splash scene telling us which software we need to download and where to find it. I already have it installed, so we'll take a look at that later on in the video. Click the top button to close this screen. The screen will briefly show you a warning that the lens cover is closed, and after about 5 seconds it will switch to low light mode. So open up the lens cover. So there's our first picture on the view screen, and you can clearly see that for a small Handycam the quality is superb. If we try to take a picture or shoot video, we'll get a message telling us to insert memory. So let's go ahead and insert a 16GB micro SD card. Open up the viewfinder and pull down the flap covering the SD card slot. Once inserted, the card will need to be formatted, and once this is done and we put the card on the PC, you can see that the files that the card needs to have in order to be used on the PJ410 are ready and installed. The card can now be put back in the camera and we're ready to start making videos. Before we do, let's take a look at the menus on the camera. There are an awful lot of features and settings, so it pays to take a bit of time at the very beginning to familiarise yourself with these. Our first menu is the shooting mode. Here you can choose between movies and photos. Note that in movie mode you can still take stills using the camera shutter button on the camera, but in photo mode you can't just switch to recording video. Next to that we have the camera mic settings, most of which you want to leave in auto. But here we have white balance, exposure and focus. This is probably the one most commonly left in auto. And then you have iris or f-stop, which if you're into photography and know about this type of setting, then by all means set it manually. But if you're like me and a complete novice when it comes to cameras, then leave it on auto. As well as the iris settings, you have the shutter speed. Again, if you know what you're doing, then set this to manual. Otherwise, leave it on auto. And finally, there's low lux or low light. Set this to on to improve the video and pictures taken in low light situations. In the next section, some of the options will be greyed out, but you can choose a picture effect, which will apply a filter to your recordings and pictures. You can activate steady shot to reduce shaking in your shots. Digital zoom will increase the zoom capabilities from ×60 optical zoom to ×350 digital. Although you may notice some loss of quality in digital zoom over long distances. Backlight correction can either be on or off. It makes no real difference to your shots. Other than when it's turned off, you might notice your picture is slightly darker. The next section is the face detection feature, which when activated will show a box around faces in the viewing screen and can detect smiles as well when in photo mode. And then we have the mic function. The PJ410 has a built-in microphone that has a zoom mic function, which allows you to boost the pickup of the microphone, a wind noise function that will attempt to cut out some of the ambient sounds when recording, and a pickup level which can be set to normal or low. If you're using this camera like me for YouTube videos, then you'll most likely be capturing audio by other means to get the best quality. Having the camera recording audio is useful when it comes to syncing up the audio and video in editing software. And finally for this section we have the shooting assist section, containing the My Button option. You can use this to add features to the viewing screen so that you can select them while filming without having to go into the menu screen. Grid lines will draw a 3x3 grid on the viewing screen to assist you in lining up a shot and getting your framing just right. And finally, display settings will display the settings you have chosen for your shots in the viewing screen, or allow them to time out and turn off. The next menu is the image quality size menu, where you can set the quality of your captures. I'm not going to go through each one because it's something that you should really experiment with to find your personal preference. The next menu is the wireless menu. Here you can connect to your wireless hub to control the camera using a smartphone or connect wirelessly to transfer files from the camera to your PC or tablet. You will have to initially connect the camera to the device you want to pair it with using a USB cable, and you will need your router passkey as well. Pairing is done via the Sony software that we will look at later. The next menu section is playback, and this merely takes you to a view screen that puts all your captures in date order and also allows you to create a playback slideshow of files saved on the camera. The next menu is the edit menu. This only has two options, delete and protect, so it's pretty obvious what can be done here. And finally, we come on to the settings menu. There are a lot of different settings here, so I'm just going to go through them briefly. I suggest if you buy a camera like this that you give yourself an hour to just play around with the settings to see what each of them do. And if you think you've messed up, you can always go back to the default settings by using the initialize option in the general settings and starting over. So briefly, you have the media settings where you can reformat the SD card, then playback settings for reviewing your photos and videos, connection settings for displaying externally, and setting what functions a USB connection has. The general settings for the camera, and finally the date and time and area settings. So take a bit of time to take a good look through these. So now we have looked at the camera in detail, we can now go out and take some footage. Here are some test shots I did and also some stills. The quality is really high for a camera in this price range. So now you have these videos and photographs, how do you transfer them to a PC? Well, there are a few ways to achieve this. You can simply remove the SD card and put it into a card reader connected to the PC. Transfer them wirelessly and transfer them using a USB cable. Let's take a look at the last one as an example. Take the USB cable that was supplied with the camera. You can see it has a female and a male end. Place the male end into a free USB plug on your PC and connect the female end to the short USB cable on the finger strap of the camera. If you have installed the software from Sony, it will automatically open up on the transfer page. On the left hand side you will see a tree of all your drives on your PC, and at the top you will see the SD card listed as a USB drive. In the main window you can select the import media files, and you will be taken to the transfer window, where you can choose what to import and where it's going to go. Then hit the import button in the center. As soon as the import is complete, the software will show you all the imported files as thumbnails. You can choose to view them with file details or in a calendar view, where it will show you on a calendar exactly when you uploaded each file to your PC from the camera. Handy for when you're making YouTube videos. No more hunting around for those video files you lost somewhere on your hard drive. Double-clicking on any thumbnail brings up the full screen display of that file, as well as allowing some post-processing editing of the file. As well as viewing and editing files, the software also allows you to set up the Wi-Fi connection to the camera and your PC. When you click on Wi-Fi import settings, it will save the necessary information to the camera, allowing for the setting up of the Wi-Fi connection. Run this, then the network setting tool to complete the wireless setup. You also get a player that is specifically set up for the file type generated by the camera, and buttons to various online support. If you haven't already downloaded and installed play memories from the Sony site, plug in your camera via USB and a window will pop up showing a directory for PM Home. Go down to the bottom and click on for Mac or for Windows, depending on what system you are using, and you will be taken to the download page like this, and can choose play memories. So that's it, you're ready to make videos and shoot photographs and transfer them with ease. However, if you plan on using your HDR-PJ410 for streaming and filming YouTube content, You have to take into account that the camera won't be recognised by software such as OBS or XSplit. You must connect it through a capture device like this one here, and use its software to pass the picture through to the recording and streaming software. Okay, I have now switched from the Logitech 920 webcam to the Sony HDR-PJ410, and I think there is a noticeable difference in the quality of the capture. So it'll make a huge difference when it comes to making good content for YouTube and for streaming. Which brings us to the final feature of the PJ410, and that is its projector. At the beginning of the video, I showed you that the PJ410 has an HDMI in and an HDMI out. We've used the HDMI out to connect to our capture card, but we can use the HDMI in to connect the camera to any external device that has an HDMI output. For example, a portable DVD player, a laptop, or even a PlayStation. And then we can project the image onto a large screen or wall, in fact any flat surface, so you can utilize the camera for other things than filming, even presentations at work. When you press the project button beside the viewing screen on the camera, it asks if you want to project an image from the media inserted in the camera or from an external source that's connected to the HDMI import. Once you've selected your desired source, it will project that image from an aperture on the front of the viewing screen. From a distance of 2.5 meters, I was able to get this very clear projection with a viewing area of 52 inches. But it does have its limitations due to the size of the camera. It is best suited for a very dark environment to get the best quality out of the projector. The clarity can be adjusted using the slider on top of the viewing screen. And that's it. Overall, it's a very good camera, and at £250, it's at the lower end of the cameras available from Sony, but performs excellently in most situations. It has a lot of connectivity options, and by adding additional hardware like spare batteries and charger and a carrying case, it is a good workhorse and could quite easily be used for a whole day's filming in both indoor and outdoor scenarios. So this camera gets a strong 8.5 out of 10 for me, mainly because it doesn't connect straight to recording software without a video capture device. But aside from that, it's a pretty good camera and definitely value for money. I hope you found this video useful, and I hope you will like and subscribe to the channel and join me in the next video.